Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Making It. If this is your first time listening, my name is Mirabelle, and I chat with creatives about all things creativity, entrepreneurship, and mental health. Today on the podcast, I'm chatting with singer-songwriter, artist, great human being all around, Kate McGill. If you've listened diligently to this podcast, maybe you've heard me mention her a few times. She's the main reason I started streaming music on Twitch, and somebody who I've been following for forever. So this is a bit of a full circle moment. It was very exciting to chat with Kate. We got into all the nitty gritty of building a music career online mainly and through platforms like Twitch and YouTube. We talk about her band Meadowlark's experience being with labels versus being independent, which for me at least was pretty interesting as I am a singer-songwriter who's only ever been independent up to this point so far. And then we get deep. Kate literally has a podcast called We Dive Deeper, where they skip the small talk and just go for all the hard-hitting questions. I encourage you to go check it out. Go listen to Kate's music. But maybe after, just finish listening to this episode and then go do all those things. And last but not least, you know the drill. Rate and review the podcast if you can, wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, then give it a like, drop a comment down below so I can say hello. Follow me, follow the podcast, follow Kate on all the social media things linked in the description. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Making It.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's really exciting because I've had a handful of Twitch music streamers on here. And so my question is always, we kind of always start off with how'd you get started on Twitch? And so they ask me the same question. And my answer is you, pretty much. And now you're here.
I love that. And now I'm here. What a lovely circle.
Yeah. So how did you get started on Twitch?
How did I? Well, I guess I always even when I started on YouTube in 2007 or something, I remember the blog TV days. Do you remember those days? Mm-hmm. And so I loved doing that. And I used to do it religiously, and obviously you couldn't get paid for anything back then. It was literally just for the fun of it. And then a couple years ago now, I think it was 2020 actually, I just kind of had that urge again. I was like, I have so much free time. I live by myself. I'm really getting back into music again and playing it and just being obsessed with it again. And I was like, why don't I do it? And I'd seen Matt Autopilot as well, and I'd seen his streams, and I was like, damn, that looks so fun. Really connecting with people. You get to play music for anyone who wants to listen. It just looked like an absolute dream. So I think I just messaged him actually on Discord, and he was like, well, if you want to get involved, I'll ring you and I'll tell you the whole shebang. And I was like, okay. And then there was an 2-hour long chat. He was like, if you're in this, you have to be in it. So he walked me through everything, walked me through all the equipment to get and stuff, and that was it really. Of course, my first few streams are horrific quality, all that kind of jazz, just really not good. But once you get in the swing of it again and you remember how it feels, and there's when you hit a peak in Twitch and you're really enjoying it, it's the best fucking feeling ever.
Yes.
And yeah, I felt that again for the first time in a decade. So that was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Matt Autopilot he's massive on Twitch.
Absolutely huge.
He's amazing.
He's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. But I mean, we were just saying hitting that point where singing songs on Twitch gets kind of not so fun anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, were you doing it consistently? You were doing it consistently. Tuesdays were a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Matt was saying to me, actually, he was like, if you want to reach an audience and get kind of a consistent audience, you have to be consistent back, you have to do the same amount of work.
Mm.
But it just hits a point. I don't know where it is or what it is that happens, but I was doing it every Tuesday night. I think at one point I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then it went down to just Tuesday nights, and that felt really good for a while. And then I think maybe it was like Christmas or there was some kind of break, and I found it so much harder to go back to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it is. I think it's got to be something to do with covers. I think it has to be that, because whenever I'm playing like original music, I'm fully into it and I love it. Yeah, I don't know. But, and also like, I don't think it's talked about enough that you have to like, it takes so much energy to do. You think it's just sat there like playing a guitar, but it's not. You have to be like on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much off like all of the time. I'm at home alone all of the time, so I'm very much off. So to like mentally think I have to turn myself on, that sounds really weird, but like, and then you have to like put makeup on and all that kind of stuff. It just feels like such a mountain to climb all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And also recently I've been playing so much original stuff that I know I definitely can't play on Twitch, and that's pretty much all I want to fucking play at the minute. So there are so many things at play. But do you relate? Do you feel similarly?
Yes, because I've been like streaming consistently since basically when I started, and the only breaks I've ever really taken are if I have other commitments or if I'm like out of town or something.
Right.
But like I've found that doing different, because like I've composed on stream also, or like I've produced, done whatever else, that's kind of helped. But I definitely feel like it's really hard once you take that break. It's really hard to come back and like have it feel normal and good. And
yeah, it's kind of like exercise in a way. Once you're in a groove of it and your body like remembers it and is like, yeah, this is amazing, and you hit a stride, it's wonderful. But getting back on the horse after a break's weirdly difficult.
Yeah. And also like just seeing the numbers, because like having it so consistent, you see like your number of subscribers and the viewers, and like it's nice. But when you leave for a bit and come back, because like the subs renew every month, and so it's not like a stable thing. And so like I came back and the first thing I saw were like the numbers were lower, and I got sad, and I was like, well, that shouldn't matter, but it kind of does, and it sucks.
Yeah, and I don't think that is necessarily spoken about, because no one wants to really be honest about that and say that numbers matters to them, or like the amount of subscribers matters to them. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like it's work. Like you're putting all of this effort in, and so it feels like a lot to give. And when it's like you don't really feel like it's maybe being reciprocated in any way, it can feel very demotivating. Which, like you say, it shouldn't be about that at all. But we're human beings. It can't, especially in this day of like social media, it's very hard for it not to be about that. You have to be like Buddha for it to just be like, no, it's just about the music, man, because it's hard to get there mentally,
Yeah. What did you get me into?
I know, I'm so sorry. Tell you what, the people though, the community, like every time when I have like gone on a big break and then gone back, that first stream back, I'm always like, oh my God, why don't I do this all the time? Because the people, you just have such a good time. And actually, I never thought of Twitch as a place where people could discover your music. I always just thought it was, I don't know, I never thought of it in that way. So when other people were kind of coming on the stream like, oh wow, this is a really good song, I'm going to look you up, I was like, fuck, people find you from Twitch? That's mad. So there's so many pros. I just need to like get my head out of my ass, I think.
Yeah, Twitch is basically where like my community started growing, and so that's the only place where people really were discovering my music.
Right.
Like I've been putting out stuff on Instagram and YouTube, but like not consistently and not like full on songs or anything. So like Twitch is pretty much where people were discovering my music. So that is nothing new to me. But I guess like you started off with other platforms and such, so I guess it's different.
Yeah, and I sadly think it's much harder now, like as the internet has gone on for a decade and now everyone is trying to make some sort of living off the internet through promoting something. it is like, it's a minefield, especially for music. Now everything's becoming like video app type things.
TikTok.
It's almost impossible to promote music. Me and my friend were just talking about it earlier. It's like, it's a horrible thing to have to like wade through at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, TikToks are now taking over, and I can't get into it. I don't know how, and I just don't want to, like, I feel like there's a form that you kind of have to follow for TikTok to have viral videos and such. And like, I just can't do that. It just doesn't feel good, and I don't understand how, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like such a grandma at the minute trying to work it, because I want to make sure that whilst I have this time and this ability to be able to like make, I guess, my career as best as I can, I don't want to waste any of the opportunity. And so whilst I have the time, I'm like, I should, in theory, be doing everything possible to make social media be growing so that more people can hear our music. But with that, I guess there's parts of every job you don't like, but it's so sad that like nearly all your time has to be spent like figuring out different apps and algorithms and marketing, and like you have to do absolutely everything. It's a horrible part of the job, that's for sure.
Do you think that's like being an independent artist kind of thing, or if you're on a label, that you kind of still have to do all this yourself?
Well, it depends how nice your label are, I guess. Like we've never had a label that have wanted to do all our social media for us, but I guess it's more genuine, authentic, isn't it, if it's actually from you? So it makes more sense. But God, if a label took hold of all of that somehow and just followed us around, I'd be absolutely fine with that. But I think it is actually it's just being an artist in general.
Yeah. I mean, you guys were with, I say you guys because Meadowlark is your band, but you guys were with a label, and now you're not.
Now we're not, yeah. It's we've still got 3 more acoustic tracks to come out, which are with them. But we kind of told them our woes, and they were nice enough to say like, you obviously, we're not going to keep you here if you don't want to be here, which is so rare for a label to do that, so incredibly rare. So we're really, really, really grateful to them for listening to us there.
Do you want to share any of pros and cons of being with a label and / being an independent artist again?
Oh man, it's hard to think of pros, I'm not gonna lie, which is so weird, isn't it? Because you would just think it's the opposite. Having said that, Guesstimate, who we were with before they let us go for the second album, Nightstorm, we can't say a bad word about them, genuinely. This isn't even me trying to placate it. They are lovely people, as you can see by how they let us go, and they loved us very much, and we were not in a good place as a band when it came to the second album. So it was like getting blood out of a stone for them. So they tried their absolute best. We were just not the best band to be with. But labels on the whole, to be honest, I have such a negative view of it, because I see the people around me and my own experiences of how you can do it independently, and how you can do it independently so incredibly well, and it be so beneficial to you in lots of ways, that you just don't need another person taking a piece of the pie, especially when, back in the day, they were absolutely necessary because there wasn't the internet or social media, and they had all the power essentially. But now they really don't. Anyone can upload their music to Spotify and be put on a playlist and get lots of streams. Like, anyone can do that. So you can't help but think, okay, so what are you doing? Like yeah. So I have a very negative view, but only because I'm so fiercely like, and this is Kina's doing as well, to be fair, just very like, look, you can do it independently, so why the hell would you give 50% of something that you made away for 10 years to someone who might send it to a couple of people? Do you know what I mean? It's just not worth the percentage. It's just not. So yeah, absolutely fucking
Makes
no
sense.
pros. I hope they don't hear this. They're gonna think I'm awful.
But yeah, what was happening with Meadowlark for your second album where you're saying things were not good?
Yeah, well, it was just such a weird phase of life, like personally as well. Like we'd kind of been touring the first album, Postcards, and we were at a point where like that was like taking it out of us in a big way. I don't necessarily enjoy touring, and Dan kind of does, but with the setup we had, there was just so much gear and everything was on Ableton and we had pads and God knows what else going on. It was such a ridiculously intense show for just two people and a drummer. And so we made life quite hard for ourselves, and because of that we were, by the end of like a touring cycle, we were both like, this is going to be impossible to keep up. This just feels draining mentally and very much physically. And so there was that coming, and then there was personally just, you know, dealing with different things like my mum or breakups and lots of like house moves in the middle of all that. And so Dan and I just, it's not, we've always been friends. We've never not been friends by any means, but we were not at a place where we were like, I guess, actual friends, like meeting up, and it just wasn't easy for a while. Like I had my own shit going on. Then there was a pandemic, like it just, and the thought of like, because the second album was made predominantly by us, Dan's production, a lot of it, it felt like pulling teeth when it had to, like at some point the label was kind of like, look, you're contractually obligated to release this album. You have to give it to us type thing. So we were like, okay, like, and this was I think Appetite came out like 3 years before the actual album came out. Like it was such a ridiculous, maybe 2 years, but it was a really long time. No wonder they hated us. And so then eventually when we were like, I guess it was contractually, it was getting to the end of the period, they could have asked for the advance back at that point because we just weren't giving them what they needed. So me and Dan were like, right, we're gonna have to get together and sort our shit out. So we went down to Totnes and worked with our friend Tommy, and it was in that process of like getting all the songs up, figuring out what they all needed, finishing them off, that we were like, oh my god, we love spending time with each other and this is so fun, and what have we been doing all this time? And we absolutely needed all that time to go and do our own stuff. Like I started doing my own stuff more and uploading to Spotify, and found much joy and happiness in that. And Dan was like absolutely killing it in the music video world, and still very much is. So we kind of got everything out of our systems, and then when we came back together again, it was like, it just felt like a breath of fresh air again, and finally felt joyful again. So whilst it was very tough to get to the point of putting out the second album, it probably was the second album that has made us come back together stronger than ever, really.
Dang, what a story.
Yeah. Pretty boring one, to be fair.
No, that's, how did you two meet and start Meadowlark? I don't know if I know that.
Oh man, how do we meet? So Dan actually produced my second ever music video as Kate McGill, Cursed. So he'd been a music video director forever, and we both used to live in Plymouth. And so I knew of him just from both being in Plymouth, and I knew of him on like MySpace, and he was like a full-on emo. And then I think like back when I just started uploading YouTube covers, I sent him the Dallas Green cover, Happiness by the Kilowatt. And so we'd kind of spoken then, and I employed him, I guess, for my second ever music video. And then we kind of became friends from there. And then I moved up to Bristol in like 2012, and he came up to see a gig, and he stopped by, and we were just talking about it. And that was around the time that I was kind of at the end of my YouTube section of life, where I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore or be known as like the cover girl. I kind of want to do my own thing. And then I think he went home, and I messaged him on his way home being like, would you ever be up for like jamming or writing together? Because we both loved Bon Iver, and we both loved Fleet Foxes, and we'd always like talk about that. And obviously came up to see a gig of The Tallest Man on Earth, which is very much our type of music. And then, yeah, he messaged back being like, oh my God, like we were thinking the exact same thing. Like you've read our minds, because there were 3 of us in the band at the very beginning. So yeah, and then like, I think it was like a week or 2 later, I went down to Plymouth and we started jamming and stuff, really. The rest is history.
That's fun. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a wild ride.
The way that you because Nightstorm, the single Nightstorm, the way that you wrote that, how did you guys come up with that song?
Yeah, so we wrote it with a guy called Erland Cooper, and I think I had the piano riff, and we knew that we wanted it to kind of like base around that. And I can't remember what is like how I think I was going through like my own, not breakup stuff, but definitely like relationship kind of problems. And I had been speaking to Dan about that, and probably Erland, because it was, I remember we were also writing a song that day called Head Cloud, because I was very much in like just an anxious state all the time about my relationship. And so that was kind of the topic, I think. And then Erland was like, you know, why don't you go and write separately, like 2 different verses about how you're kind of feeling right now, or something like that. And then we just kind of came together and like smushed it all together, and like we have completely different melodies, but they're on top of each other, and it's beautiful. We really love Nightstorm for that reason. Cool. It was just, yeah, it was cool.
What is like your writing process for when you're by yourself, or maybe for Meadowlark too?
Yeah, I would love to say that there's a process, but it's so like, I'm sure you know, it just like every time is so different. Recently, a specific tuning on my guitar has like, so many songs have come from this specific tuning. So that's definitely something. Buying a new instrument has absolutely like changed my life. Yes. But yeah, normally I'd say like maybe 70% of the time it's like a chord progression or a picking pattern or something that I'm just playing around with, that you eventually you'll land on something and like your body will get like tingly, like this is it, this is the one that you need to kind of go on with. Or sometimes it will be like a specific lyric or like an idea that I'll base the kind of song around that. But normally I reckon it would start with like a chord progression of some sort. Is it similar for you?
Yeah, well, I pick up my guitar and I play random chords and I just kind of hum along, and then you know, like gibberish words.
Yeah,
nothing makes sense, and then eventually something will click. Yeah.
Do you get bored of the same chords?
I do.
I know.
I've realized that like I have so many songs with like the capo on this fret and like just these 2 chords, and I'm like, I feel like I need something new, but I don't know what to do.
Yes. Well, actually, I can thank Gabrielle Aplin for this tuning. I must have spoken about this on a Twitch stream. It's like all standard tuning apart from the B string is tuned down to an A, and it will change your life.
I should try it.
Definitely try it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Gabrielle Aplin.
I know, right? I genuinely need to message her and be like, thank you so much.
She's amazing also.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Oh my God.
Everyone is.
You have very talented friends.
I mean, I'd love to say that she's a friend. I guess she's more of an acquaintance, but I think a lot of it's just kind of like back in the YouTube days in 2007. I doubt like we'd have that connection now if we started. Do you know what I mean? It's purely luck.
Yeah. So like when you're writing and you said, you mentioned like having an idea, but like what kind of, because for me sometimes, most of the time, it's like things that I can't stop thinking about, or, you know, that's really annoying and frustrating in my life. But I don't want that to be like how I write songs, because I don't want everything to be like depressing or like
but that's where the best like music comes from though, isn't it? It's like from actual kind of like pain, and that like that's kind of what people connect to the most, or what I mean, a lot of the time that's why I want to listen to music. Like if I want to listen to something that's gonna make me happy, I'll listen to like dance music and pop music. But like the kind of stuff we do, that's for the emotional, I want to like sit down and feel stuff. So it makes so much sense to write about anything that is not, and also like it's genuine therapy if it's on your brain all that much. Like if there's an outlet and you can use it for that way, and it may actually help people in some way, or connect with someone, or make someone in the world feel less alone because they know that you have felt that too. Bingo, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, it's been crazy, like hearing people talk about how your music has helped them in a way, or like I don't understand how that works.
I know, it just never gets understood ever. No matter, I reckon you could even be Ariana Grande and still be like, really? There are people that like this actually helped them? It's not something I'll ever really understand, to be fair. We're in very like privileged, cool positions to be able to do that, aren't we?
Yeah. I was just thinking the other day how crazy it is that we get to like make things out of nothing, really. We get to create things. How amazing is that?
It is absolutely insane. Like I'll write a song, and a lot of the time, you know, like that initial time period after writing a song where you just want to listen to it again and again, and you love it so much, and you just think like no one else in the world has written this song. Like this has never before existed until I just wrote it just then. And it like that to me is absolutely mental. It makes me feel like some sort of wizard. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like these songs are fucking incredible, but what I do know is that song didn't exist 5 minutes ago, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
And like thinking about classical music, like those pieces were written hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and they still exist now. But like the music that we have now did not exist back then. Like it's weird.
Yeah, it's just there's so much fucking music. Never ending.
It's great. Yeah, you were talking about YouTube and how is that basically where you got started?
Yeah, I think so. There was, you know, as with all those things, it was never like an intention. I never ever actually thought I wanted to make music a career until like, well, I mean, a couple years into it, really. Because I had never, yes, I liked to sing, but I never thought I had like any kind of gift to share. Do you know what I mean? I just kind of was, I don't know. So I think I just bought like a really crap nylon like acoustic guitar on eBay and then just like learned the most basic of chords. I couldn't do F chords for fucking ages, so I just like just wanted to play songs with like C and A minor and like the really easy chords. And I just did that because I absolutely loved to do it, and I loved to sing, and so that it was just a wonderful thing to do. I can't really remember why I started uploading to YouTube necessarily. I think the first things I started uploading were like piano videos. I don't think they were even me singing. So I had absolutely no intention of it ever doing anything. And I don't even remember like, I think a lot of this just actually comes down to my bad memory, because I'm sure there were points where I was like, oh, I really want to write a song now. But I can't remember at all like how that all evolved and how I wrote I don't, because I have absolutely no recollection basically, but I'm grateful for past Kate for getting me here, very much so.
Yeah. So you were like uploading covers basically, right? When did you like decide that you were going to keep that a consistent thing?
I don't think there was ever a decision. I think I was so like in the flow of it and absolutely obsessed with it. And like back then it was just so much easier. My God, you just had a digital camera and just pressed like record and then put it on your laptop, and just like there was none of this kind of like crazy, ridiculous like production stuff like there is now. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. But yeah, I don't think there was ever a decision. I think I was just absolutely obsessed with it and just wanted to do it all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I even realized the gravity of it when it was happening. Like now I can look back And I'm like, wow, like there were a hell of a lot of people looking at my videos, and like I gained quite an audience, and I don't think I knew how cool that was as it was happening. Do you know what I mean? I think it almost took like a few years to go away from YouTube and start again with something new to be like, damn, that was very precious. And I'm almost glad that I didn't know the gravity of it, because then I would have been so scared to lose it, and I probably would have, you know, tried to go the extra mile to like make sure that people liked me more. And so I'm glad that I didn't know, because I was just being myself throughout the whole thing. But it's very cool to look back at as a time of life, that's for sure.
So why'd you stop doing it?
Why did I stop? My ego got involved, to be honest. Like I remember, as we all do at some point in our lives, Googling myself, and like my Wikipedia, I think it still says this, to be fair, but it's like Kate McGill is known for her covers of Mumford & Sons and Adele or whatever. And I think at that point I was writing enough of my own music to be like, I don't want to be known for that. Like, and it was around the time that I was starting to get obsessed with like Ellie Goulding and Kina, funnily enough. And I was very much, I'm seeing all these like women write their own songs and kind of come up and make their own thing. I was like, I can do that. I know I can do that. But I know that if I keep putting all of my energy into covering other people's songs, that's not going to get me very far type thing. I'm going to have to like put more energy into my own stuff. So it's ego thing, but also just to, as with everything in my entire life, every decision I make is just based purely on like a gut instinct. And so the whole world, I remember on that YouTube video, was like, what are you doing? You're at like the peak of your YouTube kind of career. Like, why would you just stop uploading? And I definitely like, you know, I definitely thought about that for a time, but I just knew instinctively that I wanted to do something different. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Kina, and like you guys are like best friends now, which is great. That's
absolutely
pretty weird how that works out.
Very weird. I say this to her often, Anne-Marie. I'll like be talking to them and I'm like, I'll just get flashes of being like an 18-year-old being like, I'm talking to Marie and Kina Granis. And then I come back to the room and I'm like, oh yeah, this is vaguely normal now. But I was such an super fan of Kina. Like it's how fucking cool is the internet that it can bring people together like that. I mean, I would have never even known she existed had it not been for YouTube. So yeah, very, very, very cool, and very grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's Twitch for me basically right now, because it's connected me with so many people that like either I've followed for a while, like yourself, or people, just other musicians that I didn't know existed until now, and like we're collaborating, and it's super cool.
It's amazing. Like I mean, the internet has its fucking faults, but that you can't deny how cool that is. Like, we're two people who probably never would have crossed paths, but like we're spending a Wednesday evening together. I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So what happened after Twitch or YouTube? They're the same.
What
thing
happened? Yeah, they basically are. What happened? Well, we've had quite a backwards career as Meadowlark. Like, we had an insane start, weirdly, and then it just kind of like tailed off in the last like however many years. So near the beginning, I think there was some, and don't get me wrong, I'm not calling myself some kind of Beyonce, but there was just some questioning as to what I was going to do next, because such a dramatic end on YouTube. And then I think I must have been posting some things like something's coming, you know, and back then people cared about that. People don't necessarily care about that now. So I knew a promoter who was like really supportive of me, and he asked if we wanted to support a Bastille show in Coventry. And as I'd done a cover of Bastille when they were like very much in the beginning of their like careers, I knew of Dan and Woody, the drummers, from Plymouth, so there was that connection. So they kind of said yes, like they can open up. So we did one tiny gig just to like make sure that we weren't going to fuck everything up. But our first proper gig was like supporting Bastille. And then Gabrielle Aplin let us open up for her tour. And then Lewis Watson lets us open up for his. And then we had like Stornoway, I think. It was such a year of like insane stuff that like no other musician starting out would be able to kind of have those opportunities. So we were so incredibly lucky for that kind of start. And we were doing much like folkier stuff at the beginning. And obviously we're a 3-piece. It was a very, very different Meadowlark to what it is now, that's for sure. But yeah, it was very, very fun and very much a specific era of Meadowlark that we're very grateful for, but it's not like that now. And in good ways too. Like, you know, now there's 2 of us and we're much more like aware of the music industry. We do what we want to do now. You know, so on and so forth. But it was a very fun time, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think you mentioned not wanting to play live shows and such. Is that just never going to happen again, or?
Well, never say never. Never say never. But, you know, some of the stuff that Dan and I have been writing, I could very much see me wanting to do some live shows with those songs because they just feel so right and so good to sing and so like they just fill me with joy. And we've discussed the idea of like, because we've not made it a secret that I don't like shows. And you know, we were very honest online about when we had a show in Germany and we didn't sell many tickets at all, and we were honest about that online. We're like, look, the reason that we're cancelling it is purely because we didn't sell enough tickets. It's very, very, very hard to sell tickets to gigs. So there's so many layers to it, and that can affect you mentally as a band when you know that all that upheaval, that financial upheaval as well, it has to be worth it. So with all that in mind, we did think maybe we could do literally one show a year. And we would change the location every single time. But people knew that if they wanted to come and see us, they literally had one chance that year. But that's an idea we floated around. We don't really know as of yet. We're focusing on just kind of like enjoying being in a band together at this point. But yeah, never say never, but I don't like live shows really.
Why?
That's a good question. I think because there are so many parts of it. I can't be present. I'm so anxious all the time. So I just have such stage fright. I'm like always in my head, and it's not a nice place to be, like constantly, especially when I'm a very chilled person at home. So that like dynamic's very different. There's so much waiting around. I don't like that bit. When you don't have like budgets, you know, like you have to stay in a hotel room with people who snore, so you don't sleep well, and then like you don't have a sound guy because you can't afford it, and so there's everything is rightly so at that point. That's kind of what you have to do, I guess, to build your audience, but it's so unenjoyable at that level for me personally that it just never feels worth it. And my ego gets, not ego as in you know, like an arrogant part of me. It's nothing like that. I mean more like the spiritual ego type thing is kind of like, it just feels so wrong because when I speak to people after, there's an immediate like pedestal type thing. Like they see you as someone they've come and seen, and like whilst it's obviously wonderful and you're very grateful for people to come, there's this just immediate disconnect. I'm like, I'd rather just see you in like a Weatherspoons and just talk to you. But like when there's after a show, there's like it just feels uncomfortable. I'm like, why are you looking at me like this? Like I'm just a person. Do you know what I mean? It just feels so wrong. I'm like, there's just so much to it that I find hard to deal with, and so I'd rather just not do them. Does that make sense? I can't work out.
Definitely.
It's hard to be honest about that bit, because I think people think I'm being really ungrateful, but it's not a lack of gratitude by any means. It's just really uncomfortable for me. I just want to, like, especially with all that adrenaline and anxiety before I go on, I immediately just want to go and sit in a room by myself. I don't want to see anyone. So when you have to like go down and there are people that, I don't know, suddenly like want you to sign something, or they're just weirdly enamored with you, and you just know like beforehand you're just downing wine because you're so nervous. You're just like, this feels so weird, man. Like this is not a normal human interaction. So it's just, I hope that makes sense, but I don't know, it might make me come across terribly.
Has there ever been a time where that you had a good like end of gig thing feeling?
Yeah, definitely. I always appreciate it when like the people who come to the Meadowlark shows are so wonderful, and there's much like Twitch actually, it's like a community of people, the same supporters come up, and so that's really cool because you get to like, you're like, oh hey, I remember you from last time, how's this, and you like, so that part of it's really cool. And you do get to like realize and see in real time, oh, people actually like our music, and like people would pay money and they actually like give up their evenings to come and see you. That's really, really cool. So it's like, it's soul food in a way, but it's also mind food. That, and I don't want to feed that thing, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because it seems like, well, I mean, you don't really hear that many people talk about how they don't like live shows.
Yeah.
And like, you hear people talk about all the other factors of, you know, like how hard it is to sell tickets and like all the behind the scenes kind of stuff that goes on and all that tiring stuff, but they don't really talk about that.
No, I definitely feel I've met a couple people in the last like year or so who also don't like live gigs, and that makes me feel a lot better because I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not an actual alien, because it is very rare to find musicians who don't want to go out there and just play their music. But yeah, I'm happy to be a minority in that case. I don't mind.
But what if like the live gig setting was more intimate, or like it wasn't like a formal, like at a venue kind of thing? Maybe it's like at someone's house, it's like a house concert, and it's very chill and intimate.
I think I'd enjoy that more. Yeah, I think basically, I mean, who does? But I don't like feeling nervous, and shows make me feel so nervous that the whole day beforehand, like I can't really eat, and so it's that element that I'm desperately trying to get away from. And it doesn't matter if that's a nice lounge of people, or like an arena, or just like my friend. I couldn't do, like, all of them terrified me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also, it's like an imposter syndrome thing. Like I can look objectively and be like, okay, you've been like a professional musician for 10 years now, you must be doing something right. But then I'll sit at home by myself and I'm like practicing, and I legitimately like nearly cry a lot of the time because I'm like, I can't sing. Like I find this so difficult, and like I can't reach notes that I used to, and I can just I can literally hear the decline in my voice over the years, and it's so depressing and so like confidence knocking that the last thing I want to do is go and sing in front of people and feel that 10 times more. Especially my hearing's terrible as well, so if the sound isn't right in my ears and I'm already feeling like I can't hear myself, and then I can't sing on top of that, there are just so many elements to it that just make me want to chuck myself off a bridge.
Oh my God.
That's intense, but you get what I mean. Yeah,
but like
that's probably another reason why I don't like Twitch as well, to be fair.
Well, I mean, but like you saying that like your voice declining and such, I don't think other people view it that way. And like, it's just, our voices change, and it's just different in different parts of our lives. And I don't know if it's really, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think you are you are right. And a lot of it comes down to just kind of like a self-love, self-acceptance thing. Because regardless of why my voice has changed over the last decade, the fact is it has. So there's no point like crying about it. Like my voice is just different now. But I think I look back at old YouTube covers and I'm legitimately like shocked. I'm like, I sound so high. Like, how did I ever sing those notes in like a chest voice? And now I feel like I can barely reach notes that are very normal for a lot of people. And I don't know if it's because my voice in Meadowlark is always very like whispery. So I've just not used that part of my voice for a very long time. So it's very lazy now. But yeah, like we say, regardless of what it is just is my voice now. And I'm definitely, I am learning to love it in different ways now. I can still write music. That's not being taken away from me. I can still enjoy singing. That's not being taken away from me. So I've got absolutely nothing to complain about. But yeah, it's just, it's an insecurity, you know?
Yeah. If you couldn't do music in any of those aspects, what would you be doing?
Ooh, that is a great question. I couldn't be doing music. I'd want to help people in some way, specifically women, I think, like in like a domestic abuse shelter or something. Yeah, or like a counselor or a therapist or something. Something in that field, I think, maybe.
I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going after this.
What would you do?
Oh man, I would obviously want to help people also, but I have no idea in what facet I would do that in.
Yeah.
But I mean, photography and video has always been like my other hobby thing. Yeah. So maybe delve more into that.
Yeah.
But I hate thinking about not being able to do music at all. Because that's like my life.
Yeah, same. I mean, to be fair though, like I think about that every now and again, and I reach the point where I'm like, it's literally not an option for me. Like I will make sure music is my life. I will make sure of it that I won't go back to doing like the stuff that makes me want to die, like retail jobs and stuff. That was so unfulfilling for me personally. And now that I'm living this life, I'm like, I will do anything to make sure I will, you know what I mean? It's not an option for me to not do this. So, and we're lucky we do have the internet now. Like there are so many ways to make, like, we probably couldn't have been independent musicians 20 years ago. It wasn't within our you know, realm of reality. Whereas now it very much is, and we can do it. So, and there's always going to be new ways to like promote yourself or like make money from it, I think, on the internet. So we're in a good time. We're in a really good like time for making like independent musicians, I think.
Yeah, for making it.
Yeah, but making it zing.
Yeah, there's so much stuff though, like to keep track of. You know, we were just talking about like that all the social media things that you have to do, and like, I mean, and I'm producing all my own stuff and mixing and mastering now, and like it's super fun, but it's also sometimes like, well, I kind of wish I didn't have to do all of this myself.
Oh my God, yes, I can so relate. Especially when like, you know, some people go to like college and university for those kind of skills. I don't know how to fucking mix or master. Do you know what I mean? I'm just guessing every single time. And eventually, I mean, you can't help but get better at it, I guess. But like every skill that we have to learn as an independent musician, like it's not taught. You just have to kind of learn it on the job. And there are so many skills that you have to learn. Like you have to learn lighting and videos, and then photos and marketing and social media, mixing and mastering and like comping, and then your actual instruments, and then songwriting. There's not like, it's full on, man. It's fucking brilliant, but like it's not like you have to know a lot of stuff. Yeah, we're just like our own little production company. It's fine. Yeah, it's kind of cool actually. I forget sometimes, like I'll be talking to my friends about I don't know, certain mixed things or whatever. And they're like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, oh, I forget this isn't like normal lingo. Like I'm used to being in studio environments where it's very normal. And then I'm like, oh yeah, well, it makes sense. You didn't know what that means.
Yeah. I like try to explain things to my friends about like a sound quality kind of thing or something in the mixing. And just they're like, I don't know what you're saying. This doesn't make sense to me, but like, okay.
Yeah. I remember trying to explain what a key change was to my sister-in-law, and I was like, the best example of it is Love on Top by Beyonce. You know, can you hear the end and it just keeps going up? And she was like, I don't get what you mean. I'm like, how do you not hear that? I'm so confused. But I don't know if she's like acting dumb, because anyone can hear that, right?
Mm-hmm. Man. Do you have other people in your family who are musical?
Weirdly, no.
No?
Not at all. Like, I mean, I guess I've got some cousins and stuff in some bands, but like, and we had a piano in our house growing up, but it's not like my mum or dad were like musical, or I don't know. It was just not really a thing growing up. So I'm definitely the anomaly, which I'm happy to be. Did you have lots of music growing up?
Yeah, my mom is a musician, so she.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, she plays the Chinese zither, or it's called the guzheng.
Oh my god, what the hell is that?
It's like a long horizontal harp kind of thing. It's like it sits on two legs, so it's kind of like you're sitting at a little table, and it has like.
How do you spell that? I want to look it up after.
Guzheng.
Oh, amazing! Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna look up that after. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Is it difficult to play?
I mean, is any instrument difficult to play?
Like some are more though, right? Like a violin, you can't be like mediocre at a violin. You're either like incredible or terrible.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's sort of like piano. Like you can just pluck the strings and it'll sound good, basically.
Oh, okay. Right. All right, I'm on board.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so my mom, because they immigrated from Taiwan, and they had me when they moved to Canada. But like when they were back in Taiwan, she was playing in their orchestra, like Taiwanese, their national orchestra or whatever. So like coming here, yeah, like my brother and I basically had to learn that growing up, and like she taught us piano. There's just music always around the house.
Wow,
like,
no wonder you are who you are, Mirabelle.
Yeah, it's great. It's nice to have like someone to relate to in that way.
And so your brother is musical too?
No. No, he pretty much just stopped. Like we did the piano lessons, and then flute is what I took from him actually also. So like he did flute in band and then in junior high, and then he quit. He just stopped playing all instruments, and so I picked it up, and then so it became my thing, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite instrument to play?
Oh, I don't know. They're all so different. Guitar.
What are you best at, would you say? Guitar?
Oh man, I don't know. Like I did a whole master's in flute performance, so like I'm pretty okay with that now, that instrument.
Wow. But you're amazing.
But I think like I've been talking about this a lot on my like Twitch streams, where I kind of end up ranting about school.
Really?
But like because classical music has been, I think flute kind of was boxed into this like classical music realm, and you know there are certain sets of expectations and standards, and like you almost kind of have to play perfectly for things, and you know that's just not how music is though. But we get so caught up in like having to do it perfectly, and so I kind of lost the joy in playing that instrument. But then
that makes sense
because of COVID, and like you can't play with anybody, and school became online, which is terrible for music school.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds horrific.
Yeah, it did not work out very well. I mean, it worked out, but it was not fun. And with like Twitch and stuff, I just started recording myself playing flute, and then playing with myself, and eventually like I could take that out of the classical box of like perfectionism.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, but like guitar has always been the thing that I picked up if I wanted to just have fun or chill, and like so I don't know.
That's so cool. Hey, what are your thoughts on because this has been a whole topic of conversation for me and Dan recently, like imperfect stuff within music, like, you know, kind of like fluffing up chords here and there and like leaving that in, and like mouth clicks and hearing stuff in the background and all that kind of like imperfect stuff. Do you like that kind of stuff, or do you try to make your stuff as clean and as sparkly as possible?
I think I've tried to make it as clean as possible, but I would like to not be so perfect with it, because like it's that's what it is. Like that's just I don't know. Like the imperfections is what makes it fun, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's like when you're improvising and you play a wrong note, like there's no right or wrong in music, really. It's just that's just the way it is. You're making music. It's all music,
and it's like played by a live human being that's like changing every single second. It's gonna like affect the music that it's playing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have had to. I think I listened to so much pop music because I love pop music that I'm just used to hearing the sparkly, polished stuff. And don't get me wrong, I come from like the Bon Iver stuff too. Like I love that, but I guess in my head I reserved that right to just kind of those incredible like folk musicians.
Yeah,
and I never really thought I was kind of I don't know, in that bracket. So I've always been very much like, no, clean up everything and make it sound as like listenable as possible.
I mean, that's kind of like the standard of what you hear on the radio, right? And so that's kind of what we want. Like it's polished, it's good. That's what's being heard by a lot of people. So we should be doing that also.
Exactly. And I've definitely had to like unlearn that recently and like fall back in love with just music for music's sake and not cleaning stuff up to a crazy degree. Although my boundary is a mouth click, I think. Like regardless, I'm like, take those the fuck out. They are horrific.
Mm-hmm. But like a guitar buzz or like a random little sound.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember listening to a podcast, I think it was like Jay Shetty, and he was saying like, people are trying to strive for perfection and it's obviously not possible, and it means that you can keep working on something and never be done because there's always going to be something else you could do.
Yeah.
But he was like, I always like intentionally leave 5% that I know could be better, but it's the way that I can then stop. And so now if there's certain things at the end of a recording, I can sit there and be like, those are my 5%. It's all right. I can like let this go now. And that's been so helpful to me. Else I would never stop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think similarly for me, what I saw was, I think it was maybe Matt Diavello who posted this thing, but it was basically like a graphic of like your project, and the last like 70 to 100% is like perfectionism. And so for me, just realizing that like I don't have to, like I can recognize now when I'm at that point where I'm just tweaking the smallest things in the mix that doesn't, like nobody would pick that up.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the time nobody will pick those things up anyway, because we're literally searching for those things. And also like people just listen to music as like a blanket thing, and actually some people only listen to the lyrics, some people only listen to the guitar. Like people have such different ways of taking it in. So when we're like, oh, that EQ is just wrong, like people don't hear that stuff like we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah
It's helpful to remember that every now and again though, because I can get so in my own head thinking it just sounds terrible. I'm like, people don't listen to music like you do, you know? True.
Yeah. How do you listen to music then?
It depends who I'm listening to, I think. So like if it's the Queen, Ariana, I am obviously listening to her like insane like runs and stuff and just being fascinated by what she can do vocally. But I'm also, because I'm such a pop obsessed human being, I love hooks and like melodies, and when they do like fun, like I love creating weird melodies. It's like my favorite thing. So I think first of all I'm like listening to melodies more than anything. And then I'll always be listening like for production, just if it's cool, what like instrument might that be, like how have they affected that type thing. And then like if it's in the like folk realm, it's more inspiring in that way, because I'm like, this feels closer to home, like this could like legitimately inspire me to do something different, like with my guitar, or the way that they've like put a different reverb on their voice for that specific bit. That sounds really cool. Maybe do you know what I mean? So different musicians, like I'll hear different things or hear it differently.
Yeah, for sure. I think for some, like, I listen to lyrics if it's like, I mean, your songs are very deep, like so like it's most of the time, say like it's your song, I'll be listening to the lyrics more than anything else. But then I guess if it is like but if it's like a Jacob Collier song, I'd be listening to like the tempo and the groove and trying to wanting to figure that out, or like listening to the harmonies that he's doing.
That's weird, isn't it? I never actually actually sat and thought about what I'm listening to. Right. And you're right, like it's just different music, you just listen to different things, don't you?
Yeah I think I've been really focusing though on the mix that people are doing in their music
right now.
Just to be like, oh, I should try this in my next song kind of thing.
Well, it's really helpful. I especially do that in the middle of mixing. Like if I'm trying to mix my acoustic guitar, I'll turn something on Spotify and immediately compare it to try and get a similar kind of sound. But it's always impossible because you're obviously not having all the equipment they're going through and the mics and all that stuff. But it's helpful to be able to just like cross over and be like, okay, I'm not crazy far off here. Like we're all right, you know?
Yeah. My friend was, I have a friend who started teaching like mastering in a production class at like a college, and so we did a Discord call, and he kind of just ran through one of his lessons with me, because I was like, hey, I have this song, like do you have time to like listen, give it another listen, and like give me some feedback or anything. And so he basically just taught me his lesson.
Amazing.
So he took like examples of songs that were already done, mastered, and like I think he had mixes of it or something. He had like the stems, so he was able to kind of master it from scratch. So like,
wow.
Then he did it. He explained everything that he did, and then you could listen to the original master and his master and see like what's different or how close he got to it. And it's really cool.
Wow. Wait, does it? Because I've always thought as like people who can master music are like, I don't know, like there's only a dime a dozen. They're very rare, and like they've just got like a specific ear that can hear it. But and so because of that, I'm like, it must be very hard to learn.
That's what I thought.
Did it feel that way?
Really? No, because it actually didn't. Yeah, but okay, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I thought also. So I was like, oh, I can't ever do this kind of thing. Yeah. But it's kind of you're basically just pushing up the volume of everything and then kind of like tweaking the EQ a little bit and, the compression and like limiters and stuff. Like,
okay.
I feel like it's just an extra step after mixing. You do all this stuff when you're mixing, but like on the stems. But then when you're mastering, it's kind of just like overall, like that's one big stem that you're listening to and you're just tweaking that. So
interesting. I'd be curious to learn that, because right now, whilst it's very handy to just like go on eMastered and just do all of it through there, which is very handy and it does sound great, I'm like, if I could learn an extra skill, why not add another one to my resume?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure though, like the people who master music and who have won Grammys, like they probably do something different. They probably have a special thing that I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, there's got to, because I can definitely hear a difference from when we get something like professionally mastered with Meadowlark and when I'm doing it myself. There is a noticeable difference, but I couldn't tell you what that is. You know?
Yeah, a part of me is kind of like, well, maybe I should just send my music off to people to get it mix properly or master properly, but I also just really want to do it myself.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's like a big expense when you if you can learn it yourself. Why? Yeah, it makes the most sense. I couldn't be paying for mixing and mastering of something every month or two. Like that would break me in half. Do you know what I mean? I mean, why not have an extra skill in your arsenal?
Yeah, but like also the other thing though is like you still want things to sound good and polished when you put it out, and like so like part of me is like, well, what I'm putting out, I'm proud of what I'm putting out now, but like looking back, like the stuff that I put out 2 years ago maybe is not the best, and I kind of cringe over that. But that's kind of just where I was at that time, and so it shouldn't matter, but it also kind of I can't not cringe about it.
I feel very, very similarly. I say annoyingly, it's obviously anything but annoying. It's incredible, but now like some of the older stuff that I put out a couple of years ago is the stuff that's most popular on my Spotify now. And so I'm listening to those like mixes and I'm like, oh my God, like on one particular song, I must have put like the de-esser on so hard because it literally sounds like I have like a lisp almost. And I'm like, oh my God, that's now like doing the rounds on Spotify and it's a terrible mix. Alas, there we go. Can't complain about that.
Have you ever remixed and mastered and put things out or like deleted things?
No, I don't think so, but I wouldn't be against doing that by any means. No. You?
Yeah. I have not yet, but I feel like I might do like a remix or a master of some songs. And like Wildfire has been a staple sad bop in my Twitch streams.
We love.
And like, but like, I hate how it sounds on Spotify and such, because just knowing that like I could have, well, maybe I couldn't have done better because I didn't know how to do better, but I can do so much better now. And also like I have this redeem now called like a floop. It's a flute loop because I add it to my looping. And so like this one time somebody requested me to add flute over Wildfire, and that was like the most magical moment, and I cried and everybody cried.
Really? Oh, that's amazing.
But yeah, and so like, but like I kind of want to re-release Wildfire and add flute to it now, and like
you could do a reimagined version.
Yeah, but
like
then,
you wouldn't have to delete the other one.
Yeah, but then I also thought like, I know I'm gonna feel this again in like another 2 years.
Just keep releasing reimagined, reimagine.
Yeah, it's just gonna go on forever. Every couple of years, there's gonna be a new edition of Wildfire.
Yeah, at some point, I try, much like human beings, I try to look at songs like trees, in that like that just is what it is. There's no point like it is its own thing now. It's like it's a fully grown thing. Let it be exactly that without like pulling it apart like that. It served its purpose for that time in your life, and now it's gone and you can release it into the world. So I feel similarly about my song Friday. I was really at the like start, like beginner production wise, like, you know, my first song on GarageBand type thing. It was so basic. And it was like way before I got better mics as well. There was so much to it but that song was on a Netflix series. So it just shows you don't actually have to have like the best mixes or like the absolute best equipment. Sometimes if like the raw magic of a song is there and you have captured that in that first recording, like let that be, you know? Sometimes that's part of the magic, is like the crapness of it, I think. Do you know what I mean? Because you've captured like the feeling of that song in that recording.
Oh, yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this Netflix thing a Japanese show? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
How did that even happen?
I honestly, they contacted me via Bandcamp.
Oh.
Which is the weird, like, of all places to contact me. I have no idea to this day how they found it. But bloody hell, the paperwork to get like money from Japan is a fucking ball ache. It took so long, and the forms were so confusing. Almost, obviously not, but almost to the point of me being like, I don't think I care that much. Like, this is so confusing. I don't know how to do it. How is anyone meant to work these things out? But luckily, we figured it out. But yeah, Bandcamp, weirdly. Who'd have thought?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just like who would have thought your music, people would discover your music through Twitch.
Exactly. You just never know. And I guess that's why you got to just keep going, because you just don't know who might stumble across your stream tomorrow and be like, hey, I want to give this girl a sync. You know? You just don't know these things. And that is the magic of this universe.
It's crazy.
It is very cool.
What you said about trees, the singles being like trees, I get that. Like, I mean, I would never have thought about trees.
I think it's because Ram Dass talks about, he's like, you should see people like trees. Like, you're not going around and being like, ew, that tree's ugly, or like, that one's too fat. Like, you just wouldn't think of a tree like that. You're just like, oh, it's a beautiful tree, and you wouldn't even really like be judging it. You just see it as a tree. Whereas like with everything else in our lives, we're just like, ew, that's got that and that. And like, no, it's just its own thing. Like, let it be, you know?
Yeah. I just finished reading The Untethered Soul, and I know you're a huge proponent of it. Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know. I felt like when I was reading it though, I was like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But the tree thing, there was like a part of it where he's like, imagine if you were God or something, and like somebody, maybe you hate this tree, but somebody else loves this tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing the like positive side of things.
And also realizing like how fickle your own thoughts and emotions are, really. Or not even fickle, but like in a really liberating way, how meaningless they actually are. They're just kind of like a program. Like, I've been programmed because of something in my childhood to like not like the way this color looks on me or something from a memory I can't even remember, but like someone else might absolutely love that color on me. It's just kind of like it's a meaningless thought. It's just like a programmed thought. Do you know what I mean? And so because someone else likes it, you realize how actually like it's just a story I'm telling myself. It doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah. You know? It's hard to let go of the labels though that we give ourselves. We define everything. We have to put labels on everything.
Everything else, it's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. We humans, we got to make a story out of something.
We Dive Deeper is a thing. I don't know. Is it coming back?
Someone actually asked me about, I think it was Tom actually, asked me about this on an Instagram question. And again, much like the gigging, I can never say never, because the whole concept of it I absolutely love. Like, it's my favorite thing, talking to people and like asking ridiculously deep questions and just finding out more about the tapestry of this one person's life. I think is amazing and cool and brilliant. But the actual like the podcast side of it, as I'm sure you'll be aware, it's a hell of a lot of work for one person, a hell of a lot of work. And if you're not like at the top of the top, like Joe Rogan, having ads and sponsors and all that kind of jazz, and not making money from it, there's so much that goes into it. And music's always going to be my priority. It's where I want to put most of my focus, all of my focus. So when I felt that being a drain, rather than that like ego part of me being like, well, everyone's going to be like, oh, she just stopped it. She's like, you know, that part of me that's worried about what other people will think. And, you know, am I useless for just stopping something in the middle of it? I just thought, well, it's draining me. Why would I carry on doing something that's draining me right now just because I'm scared of what people will think of me? Or do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was the same with the whole YouTube cover thing. I'd just go on instinct, and they may be really rash decisions and just happen all of a sudden. But I just kind of go on what I'm feeling. And I don't want to do things that I don't want to do. Like, it's my life. I want to feel happy in it as much as possible. And like, if sometimes that includes not gigging and not Twitch streaming or not doing lots of podcast work, that's what I'm going to do. And I, you know, I'm saying this to myself because I feel very much like I should apologize for all these things. Like I should. I actually put an Instagram post about this earlier. I feel like I should be doing more all the time than I am. And I had, the reason I put that post up today is because I just had this realization on my walk, like, oh my God, I don't actually have to do any of these things. Like, I don't know where this pressure's coming from, but it's not, it's like, I can just sit here and like watch TV if I want, or I can, obviously we have to make money, but like, even then, like, if you don't want to be a part of the rat race and you want to go and live in the woods and like make your own food, you can do that. Like, you can do what you want. And I think just realizing that, taking that pressure off myself, I was like, I'm all right here. I don't have to do any of these things I don't necessarily want to do in this moment. But that's not to say I won't want to do the podcast again in a year or want to gig in a month, you know? I'll just go on what I feel in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I feel like I sound like a bit like a brat. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do it, so I'll do it when I want to do it.
I mean, you're looking after your own mental health and everything, so I don't see how that's a problem.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, before I went on some trips, like, I was trying to finish my recordings, and I was like streaming a lot, and I was like, I felt like I was on the edge of burnout, and coming back to it, I was like, well, because I really want to make this a thing. Like, I really want this to be like the main thing that brings me an income and such. And like, so I should work harder at it. But I was getting to the point of burnout because I was putting all this stress on myself that nobody else was putting on to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense, really.
Yeah. And it's so easily done. Like we were saying, when you're your own kind of boss and you always think the world is doing so much more and everyone's like, you have the same opportunity, you just need to wake up and work really, really, really hard. It's terrifying. It's like, you're just like, oh my God, I've got to do everything and I have to do it to the best of my ability all the fucking time. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to look back my life and be like, I was just working so hard that I was on the edge of burnout and stressing myself out, and everyone's like so focused on their own stuff. No one's caring about what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather actually just like chill out a bit and just be like, yeah, today's really cool. I'm gonna do some music today, and if I really love it, I'm gonna go into the night at like 3 a.m. and just keep doing it. But if I don't, I'm gonna accept that and I'm gonna go for a walk instead, you know? Like, everything's it feels so intense in this world when you can just relax and enjoy it a bit if you want.
I feel like, though, being like music being the career thing that we're talking about, it kind of is different from people who have 9-to-5 jobs and who work at these big companies and have to, you know, when you're not your own boss and you have to respond to other people. I feel like that it's harder for them to kind of have that freedom.
Yeah.
But
and I realize very much how privileged I am and how like lucky I am to even be able to say that kind of stuff. And I can only talk from my own perspective, do you know what I mean? And just my own like thoughts. But God knows it must be much harder for other people, for sure.
Did you come up with all these questions for We Dive Deeper?
It's like they kind of got them from everywhere. Like some that I thought of, or that I've just kind of like always asked my friends, or they've asked me. Some that I found online. It was just kind of like a curated, really, just like from all my all-time favorites.
Like, these are very, very deep questions.
Unnecessarily deep at times, I would say.
You just ask about people's childhood traumas.
I know, straight off the bat. Never pick number 7. Don't do it.
But yeah, podcast has, I've been realizing how much work goes into it.
Yeah, how are you finding doing that? Are you enjoying it?
I think that like when I do like editing and I do enjoy that kind of thing, but sometimes it does get to a point of like, I don't want to rewatch this entire hour-long talk to like make sure everything is fine. But I am trying to be like, well, I'm always super inspired after every conversation that I have with people. And so I feel like that has to be worth more than the tedious editing and hours.
And that's an amazing way to look at it. If that can be the thing that kind of keeps you going, then hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I have been thinking about how like I'm not making any money from it also. Like
and it's a horrible thing to have to say out loud, but when you put so much output and you're not getting anything back, it feels very difficult to keep. And I guess it's like with music, for example, it's a different beast, isn't it? Because we want to put all of that output in all the time because it's our like everything, and that's what like feeds us. But conversations feed me, but like actually like manning a podcast does not feed me whatsoever. That's not something I would do. I mean, so if I was just having the conversations and then someone else could do all the other editing and stuff, I'd be doing podcasts from my bed every day. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
well, have you thought about finding people to help you do all of that stuff?
Do you know what? No, I haven't. I've never actually thought of that. And I think if I had like if I start to make more money, like if I keep saying that about everything though, like driving and you know, saving for a house, but when, not even if, we're manifesting here, when I have more money, that's definitely not something I would turn my nose up at. Actually, I think that if someone else could do it all, I'd have chats with everyone all day, every day.
Yeah,
you know. I think it's when it's like your own music, there's so much joy in the editing because you're hearing it as you're going along that it's nearly like this. But it's, I don't know, it's just different when it's a podcast. I don't know. Yeah. People have asked me if I would like hand it off to people to edit, and I was like, well, I feel really awkward though about people seeing me being I don't know, like right. I just feel like a certain facade kind of thing. I can agree with that. I can get that.
Yeah, we have some Patreon questions.
Amazing.
If you'd like to answer some.
Of course.
Daniel asks, what makes you keep moving forward?
Oh, hi, Daniel. I feel like I remembered calling you Dan once, and we were like, oh, no, it's Daniel. So my apologies for that. What keeps me moving forward? Oh my God. What keeps me, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, my whole life is flashing before my eyes. What does keep me going? Oh my God, I actually don't know. You know, like some people, like, they figured out their like why, I guess, their like mission, why they're here. I feel content in just the everyday learning, really. The forever not knowing, the things just kind of like popping up every day. Like that's, I think, what kind of motivates me, or like what keeps me going is just like, who knows what could happen tomorrow? Like just keep living this life that I love so much and I'm so grateful for, and like that's enough to just keep me being like, this is I just basically just want to keep doing exactly what I'm doing and enjoy whatever life chucks at me, even if it's terrible stuff. I love the opportunity to like learn more about myself and like grow from it. And like I always find, weirdly, when life is like hardest, that's when I'm like at my best sometimes, because I'm reading all the time and I'm like meditating and I'm so in the magic of life. So like, I don't know, I'm just here for any and all of it. I'm think of myself more as like a relaxed observer. There's not necessarily something driving me. I'm just like really content with just witnessing and experiencing it all and ambling along, you know?
That's great. He also asks, will you ever get there, and does it matter?
Oh, wow. No. No, it definitely doesn't matter. And I think my getting there is death. And yeah, I'll definitely get there. Does it matter? Probably not. Yeah, no, I'm pretty... Nah, it doesn't matter.
All right. Phuong has a couple of questions. What's an essential part of your daily routine?
Oof. We like... Probably my walk, like listening to a podcast and being on my walk is always the like coming back to myself moment where I'm like, oh yes, everything's absolutely fine. I actually listened to a podcast yesterday which I'm going to take on board. This guy, he says he makes sure he does these 4 things every single day. Watch me not be able to remember all 4. It was one that's connect with the human being you love and feel that connection. One is contribute, like either read something or learn something or like, you know, put something into the world that's going to contribute to it. Create, write a song, give yourself some time to just sit and amble on a piano or something, and then move, some form of like exercise. And I thought that was really cool because I think if my day can be filled with like 3 or 4 of those every day, like I'm golden, and I'll be very happy each day if I can do those, I think.
Yeah, those are great things.
Yeah, right? I'm definitely going to implement those.
How does contribute and create, how are they kind of different though?
Well, I guess contributing is more kind of like giving something to the world, or like learning more about yourself so that you can be better for other people, or like, whereas creating is like literally just a blank canvas. You could write, you could paint, and it doesn't necessarily have to be shared, you know, it's just for the sake of creating and the joy of it. You know?
Makes sense. She also asks, who has had the biggest impact on your career choice?
Like muse, as in like being a musician,
I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, immediately Kina came to mind. And that's obviously because of me watching her on YouTube. That was obviously huge for me, realizing that could be done. But also in these last few years of her just championing independence as an artist and just being like, you can do this and you can do that. And I don't know, just watching her is forever motivating and inspiring because I'm like, it can be done, and she's doing it at such an incredible level and is just so good at what she does that it will never not have like an impact on me, because I'm just like, damn, she can do it, I can do it, you know?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Another question from Phuong.
Yeah.
Do you live by any words of wisdom?
Oh God, I have like so many that'll depend on for each different things. What would be the thing that would like I'd come back to most though? I was about to say "Let It Be" just because that sounds like a Beatles song. Probably like the ultimate thing is just like trust the process, trust where you are right now. Because like, man, if you can, I can't not trust in my life really. Like I think of so many things that have happened or that I would have wanted to have happened that didn't, or just the fact that I am where I am right now, and I could have never ever imagined the way it would have gone or planned it myself. I just feel such a genuine like trust in the natural unfolding of my life. And so whenever I'm like really anxious about something, or I'm just feeling that like unease about money or like being single at this age or whatever it is, I'm just like, I just trust in it ultimately, and that like really dissipates that unease, because I'm like, it's all right, man. Like everyone's like on their own very unique journey, and I'm the only one with this life, like this thumbprint, this like snowflake, and so there is no wrong way to live it. Therefore, like you can't go wrong. And so you can just like sit back and just trust. And especially if you're in like observing, just enjoying mode, you don't really need to worry about anything because you're just experiencing it, and then one day you'll die. It's all right, you know? Death is the like honestly the ultimate thing for me. It always relieves me of any like pain or stress, because I'm just like, I'm only here for a small amount of time. Yeah, like it doesn't scare me. If anything, it liberates me, because I'm like, whew, I may as well enjoy it, because we're gonna go one day, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like it's harder to really trust the process when you're in the depths and feeling really down.
Yes.
And like, and when things happen, like losing family and friends and such, like how do you still trust the process when you're like just
in
grieving so much? Like,
yeah. Well, to be honest, it was losing mum that made me kind of, I guess, get to the point where I started trusting in what happened. Just because now I look back at that whole phase of life and I'm like very, very, very grateful for the person it's made me become. I listened to this on a podcast. That's all I ever do. But they were asked like a very general question, like if you could go back and live in your 20s, or like gain 10 years of your life, but it means that you lose all the lessons that you learned in that 10 years. And like 90% of people were like, no, I wouldn't do that. And so I just feel like you can't look at that, no matter how horrific life can be, like in the thick of it, the stuff you get from it, like the growth makes it so worth it. No matter how horrific those things are, the growth is always worth it. So in those like in the thick of it moments, I'm like, I can trust in this. I may not see it right now, but this will be the making of me in some way or another. Like it just will be, because it can't not be, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that though. And we're all kind of just stuck with these thoughts of like, we're just so stuck in ourselves, and that we can't really live life as we just should.
Yeah, I agree. But I almost think that like the kind of mundane kind of stuff, like, and I say mundane as in like you have the extremes of like a grief, but like it's actually like, I think the low level kind of stuff that happens every day that's genuinely harder, because that becomes such a normal part of life that you just think that is the way life is. It's much harder to move through that, whereas when it's like one thick thing of grief, that almost feels a bit magical, because you're like, I can find my way through this, we're going to be all right. But like having low level depression or anxiety every day, that's a different beast altogether, because that's almost, it feels chronic at times, and it feels like because you've had it for so long, you're never going to get out of it. So that's a different beast altogether. And I really feel for people who like struggle with that, because I'm lucky that I don't. But you know, in the small bouts of depression that I have had, and you know, just a couple days where I've felt intense anxiety, I often think in those moments, I'm like, I feel for people who live with this all the time, because I couldn't do it. Like it's so debilitating. Yeah. So yeah, I'm speaking from singing from a different hymn sheet for sure. But we have actually I can't say that, but I almost think that you need to like, there needs to be an absolutely massive crash in your life for you to like get to the point where you can trust in all of it, even the like the low level stuff. But obviously you don't wish that on anyone, but life will give you it. It will definitely give you it.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in all of that. Yeah. What's something that you've done recently to like get out of your comfort zone?
I guess like in a recording environment, which I'm in often, I am used to, like we were saying earlier, like making everything polished and sparkly. And because of my own like insecurities, my own voice, I'm used to tuning it somewhat. And, you know, I listen to pop music all day, every day. So I'm very used to hearing vocals never be out, not even by a slightly small bit. But in music that Dan and I have been writing, we are making like a conscious effort to not tune anything whatsoever, which for me is like it's the most terrifying thing ever, and it's actually the most vulnerable thing ever, because I have such a insecurity about my own voice and how it sounds. I consistently sing sharp because of my hearing, and it's not crazy sharp, but like I'm never like very in tune, you know what I mean? So I'm very aware of that. So it's been a massive like journey of self-love, because Dan is so encouraging. He's like, you know, I want to hear the voice of the person I sing with in the room. Like, that's why I'm in a band with you. That's the voice I want to hear. I love that voice. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a bit sharp and blah, blah. And he's like, but like, you know, like we're used to things being like on a grid with certain instruments, but like there are different tones in between notes, you know, like it doesn't mean it's necessarily out of tune. So it's been like a labor of love trying to get me to understand and just be okay with my own voice. But it's been a journey very much outside of my comfort zone, but I'm very glad that I'm on that journey, because it's making me be like, maybe I'm not a fucking terrible singer. Maybe this is okay, and maybe people like my voice like that, you know, because I trust Dan. I don't think he would lie to me. So yeah, that's probably what's got me out of my comfort zone.
That's awesome. Yeah, I also, so like Michael Alvarado of Us the Duo, he started streaming on Twitch, and so like that's how we got connected and everything. And he was doing a lot of producing, and like he started his Discord community, and basically he was listening to everybody's music and kind of just like giving an extra ear and, you know, giving some feedback and whatever. Or he was doing producing on a stream, and he was in Melodyne tuning everything, and I was like, oh, I feel like I should have maybe tuned my songs. But I think hearing it from him, because he's somebody that I've followed for a while, being like, the out of tuneness is what makes the folk kind of genre, like that's what makes it, and that's what the imperfections is what makes it great.
yeah And I've definitely like learnt that over the last like couple of months. I've really started to hear my voice in that kind of way, like almost like demoitis in a way. Like I've heard it so much in this certain realm that even I don't want it to be tuned now, because I'm like, no, I get it. I think I get what you're hearing now, you know? It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very right.
Cool. Niko asked, any plans on doing a songwriting retreat like you did with Kina with Mirabelle?
Oh, wow. Well, actually, we have no plans for a songwriting retreat. But again, never say never. I think now Kina's in mum world.
Yeah.
We're all just very like excited for her to be in that. She's absolutely loving it. So no plans, but never say never.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all the questions that I had.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.
That was great. That's a lot.
Thank you for having me, Mirabelle. I so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah. This is a huge thing of getting myself out of my comfort zone, so.
And fuck yeah, you're doing
Exciting.
it. What a queen. We love.
Okay, so where can people find you on the internet?
I mean, where can they not find me at this point? Instagram.
TikTok.
I mean, to be fair, I'm on there too. I legitimately, the only place you can't find me, I think, is like OnlyFans. So Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's mostly just Kate McGill. And if it's not Kate McGill, it will be Kate Laura McGill. And if it's not Kate Laura McGill, it will be Kate McGill Music.
Great.
And then we're good to go.
Sweet. All right. Cool.
Thank you so much for having me.